Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Zach Celadonia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and joining me, back from a little mini sabbatical here. It's been since the holidays, since the Thanksgiving holidays, since we've seen and won. Flash, Zach Celadonia, what's going on, my friend? How you been doing?
Good. Things couldn't be better. I'm glad to be back. I'm not sure if I'm going to remember how to do this. Speak into the mic, enunciate. But I'm glad to be back. I think the comment section might have got a little excited thinking I might be off the show, but unfortunately, I'm here.
Well, they might have think that you might have went like with one of those beanie hats and snipped the palm off there. You don't have the top knot going today.
No, I'm letting it flow like Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett's almost got like that Nick Cage Con Air thing going. Aaron Rodgers Con Air thing going. Same kind of.
He looks so much better than Aaron Rodgers did, though. It's an age thing. Rodgers is too old to have that flow, but Kenny, he's still in his 20s, so it works.
Absolutely, man. I feel that almost every day too. There's days where I'm like, do I shave just to be camera ready here? Or you got to do it. You got to do it for the people, man. You know what I mean?
Well, nowadays, having the baby face is out. You got to have a little something on the face.
I know. That's where I'm at, too. And the kid has been so used to me having a beard over the years. I know it's just a chin strap, but and that in itself, like, I'm bald, all right? I need some type of hair up here on the upper region of my head. It's cold out there, you know what I mean? But I'm not going to go Santa style. I can't go Duck Dynasty. And to be completely honest, there's spots. We have all got it. There's spots on my face that don't actually produce the right amount of hair to make it look cool, you know what I mean? So it's like I'm not going to do that and have this little patchy, like, look like I'm some preteen that, you know, I'm going through puberty or whatever.
I got some friends with that same problem. They still can't grow a beard, whereas I've been able to grow one since like 7th grade. Don't know why, but again, I think that's why I'm so short, because what I lack in height, I make up for in hair all over my body.
And I have very many friends just like you over the years too. About a friend named Jason, I just think I always used to call him a Sasquatch. So he's just like,
I haven't not heard that before.
Yeah, he could be on the Jax Links commercials. So some free
I love
pub.
jerky.
I know, man, we could get in. So just a little bit of side note off the air. I think me and Zach must have talked for like almost 40 minutes before we actually got on the horn and actually started doing this show, just about all kinds of random stuff. Talking about his unhealthy gambling obsessions, which have leaked into the World Cup, and, and all kinds of stuff.
Well, the World Cup's the last of my worries. It's the college football slate that's been screwing me over. I actually did decent with the World Cup.
Oh, man, college football is just insane. It's just insane. And I thought, you know, I'm a hater. I'm definitely an Alabama hater. I'm a almost said the full word. That University up north hater as well. So, you know, if I'm an Ohio State guy, I'm not so rooted in Ohio State. I've got several teams I follow. Obviously, my alma mater is Youngstown State, but they're not on the same level. They're an FCS school. They're out. They didn't make the postseason, so they're out. And, you know, I don't have.
You didn't take the loss too hard to Harbaugh.
Oh no, that still sucked. That sucked ass, man. They got their ass kicked. Like I want revenge for that. Absolutely. Like, it's been fun. It's one of those things, kind of like when the Cleveland Browns win a game against the Steelers. Like, a broken clock could be right like twice a day, and the Browns winning like once in a decade. It's like, okay, this sucks. It could suck even more, but now it's like, you know, 2 in a row or whatever. That don't sit well with me, especially since it's Harbaugh. I have not liked that guy since he was in the NFL. I don't like either of them. I could respect John a little more than Jim. Jim is like that little. Is he the younger one? I don't even know, but he's this whiny little brat, and he's always on the field.
Jim's younger, I believe.
And it would make sense just based on their character traits or their personalities that you see leak through the screen. And him going to Michigan was just like icing on the cake, because I don't have anything against the 49ers. In fact, former 49ers owner Edward J. DeBartolo from Youngstown area, my hometown. And there's actually a building there. The Bartlow building has a 49ers logo on it. If you're ever in Boardman, Ohio, and strolling down Market Street there, Route 5, you'll see that. It looks so out of place. It's like, why is this in Northeast Ohio with the West Coast NFL team's logo on it? And then make a little more sense for you. So the 49ers ties there, like growing up in the 80s when the Steelers sucked, everybody around was like pretty much a fever pitch. I mean, the Browns were good then, but also the 49ers. So you had some people jump on that bandwagon, and you would have just random stuff like, that the patriarch of that family really got into the shopping mall scene and everything like that. So you'd have 49ers players coming to town for no good apparent reason or anything like that. And there's still some of those ties. They make a pit stop there in Youngstown every so often. The 49ers do when they're headed out to play like East Coast teams. They'll actually come in and stop there, and they do some like community work appearance type stuff. It's pretty cool. It's a little after a side effect note to all that. But anyways, yeah, the Harbaughs, you could keep them. I don't like either. Like John, unfortunately, and it makes me puke to actually say this, he reminds me so much of Bill Cowher. He really does. There's just something with him. But Jim's name too. And it's funny because the Colts fans that were sitting behind me the previous Monday night, they're talking about the Ring of Honor. It's up there, like around the field. There's guys that are in that Ring of Honor that are on the stadium, like their names. Like Jim Harbaugh is one of them. He was there like 3-4 years, and they have these.
Yeah, right. Didn't he get them to a championship game though?
Yeah, with the Steelers, the Steelers are the ones that knocked that clown out. So the 1 year,
really?
yeah, which makes it even more savory. In fact, trying to think here. How long ago that was?
The Harbaugh Steelers rivalry goes deep.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure it does. But don't worry. If the Colts made it to the AFC title game, they put a banner up in their stadium too. It says AFC finalists. So this is like, I may as well flame on them. They got their talk about getting your ass handed to you on Monday Night Football against the Cowboys. That a lot of people will say, wow, okay. So the Steelers beat a really bad team. They've been beating some bad teams. Yeah, they're kind of middling, all right? We all kind of know that. And they're kind of growing into their own. But at least they're not losing to these teams. Matt Ryan, just, oh my goodness. And the highest paid offensive line in football, just that looked so bad against the Cowboys. And it was...
I hate to break it to people, but a lot of teams and players benefit from playing the bad teams in the NFL and the average teams. Matter of fact, I heard a stat the other day that Tua is actually terrible against any team that is top 10 or top 5. And look what happened yesterday against the Niners. I think Tua is a good player, but he's definitely benefited this year from picking on bad teams and lackluster defenses to help improve the general opinion of him. And it goes for Tua, it goes for the Dolphins, it goes for the Steelers, it goes for a lot of teams. Like, you have the benefit of beating bad teams sometimes. Look at Tom Brady's career.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? You can only play who's on your schedule. And I'm glad you brought up Brady because the Patriots popped into my brain as well. You're looking at both East, like they used to be NFC least, AFC least, and both of them, like pretty much, I think all of their teams, if I look this up and I'm thinking correctly, they're all over 500. All 8 of those teams in both of the
They
East
were last week.
divisions. Yeah, heading in, they were for sure. I'm going to confirm that. Yeah. So New England's 6-6 now. So they're at 500. So nobody below 500 there. And in the basement, the Commanders 7-5-1. I think we would kill for 7-5-1 right now if you're a Steelers fan. And that would be good enough almost to you be in the thick of this. They're not completely out of this, but man, the Bengals crawled their ass back into this somehow. They get lucky, and sometimes they're good too. I'm not going to take anything away from Joe Burrow. Baltimore might be hurting. We're going to be looking at that later this week. Lamar Jackson leaves that game, but the Patriots at 6-6, bottom of their division. New York Jets 7-5, 8-4 Miami Dolphins, and the Bills at 9-3. Now, like, just rocketed back into that top spot. I think they're above the whole AFC. And the Steelers played all these teams. And so, yeah, they played a lot of good teams to start this, and they were winnable games. And you look back at who the Patriots beat, and like they beat what? Mitch Trubisky. Was it Jared Goff? I'm trying to think who's here. Jacoby Brissett, Zach Wilson, maybe Sam Ellinger, and I'm trying to think.
Definitely the worst team in the East.
Yeah,
I don't think they're a very good team at all. I think they are bad. They're a bad team.
Yeah, I think there's only one of these games where they won where with their 6 victories this season, where that team still has the same starting quarterback as when they played the Patriots was the statistic. And I have
One
to
of those.
yeah, so like Trubisky, for example, when they beat the Steelers, like everybody, Sam Allinger is now benched back for the Colts for
Could be
Matt Ryan.
Brissett, Deshaun Watson.
Exactly. So that's kind of an interesting tidbit. In fact, maybe even the Jets. I don't know if the Jets was Zach Wilson or if that was Flacco. No, it was Zach Wilson. Oh yeah, the 3 interception game. How could I forget that? That was where Wilson really started catching some heat. This is where I'm against the people that say the Steelers don't know how to lose right, man. Tank and get a quarterback because they're not happy about Kenny Pickett. And heading into this one, I found something. You know, I'm a Mason Rudolph kind of sympathizer and apologist, but a truther. But there was a very interesting set of statistics that I pulled. And this was ahead of yesterday's game against the Falcons, by the way. And I'm going to see if I can grab it real quick. But if you compared Mason Rudolph's 2019 season, it's very similar. I think overall, this is for the people who say Mason Rudolph didn't have a chance. And I'm trying to ask if do people feel the same way about Kenny? Yes, no. Would you pull Kenny at this point? And everybody would be like, no, you're out of your mind. And Rudolph had 10 career starts, and heading into yesterday's game, Pickett had 7. And yesterday was his 8th. So Rudolph in just 2019 was 176 for 283, 1,765 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions for an 82 quarterback rating. So Pickett, all of his numbers were below that, and he had a 73.5 rating. He only had 1,600 yards, 3 touchdowns, 8 picks, right? 175 for 265. And now we could probably surmise, if I look up some statistics, he's probably right on that mark right now. But people would say Rudolph had his chance. He had his chances. And it's like, but there's still others, though. And we know it's the Pitt connection, right? He's the guy who played for the local college. So there's some people that are going to defend him a little bit more, and they're going to be more of a fan because of it. And I'm not against either of these guys. I'm not trying to make it that way. It's just because this is the way fans think with their entitlement, that a quarterback has to be like amazeballs, like right out the gate. And very seldom is that ever going to be the case. And I don't want to be a broken record because we've said this many of times here on the show. But to pull up one of the tweets that you had, 2 of the tweets actually that you had me pull for this post-game show. Let's pull up first Chris Dokish or Dokish. I don't know how you say his name properly, but Pickett's passer rating the last 5 games has climbed, especially post-bye week. So if you take a look at it here, 66.9, 79.7, 85.9, 87.5, and 90.9. He's getting better every single game. And
he's literally spelling it out for you.
Yeah. And for the people that still aren't convinced and they're upset and they want the Steelers to go grab the next Zach Wilson or Sam Darnold, or Baker Mayfield apparently is going to be released now and heading to waivers. Oh man, top overall picks, folks. Top overall pick with Baker Mayfield. And it's more the rule than the
but
exception.
you see how many chances these guys get. Yes. And that's the difference with the Mason Rudolph thing. I'm with you on the impatience from fans and not viewing things fairly, but Mason wasn't a first-round pick. He wasn't viewed as the future. He wasn't treated the same because that matters to NFL teams and the staff. Like, their numbers are similar right now, but the idea is that Kenny will be the starter, hopefully, for 10-plus years.
Absolutely.
Mason didn't have that. He wasn't looked at in that way. I'm with you that fans are impatient, and Mason took a little too much shit, and his numbers look good when you look back at him compared to Kenny's right now. But that's the difference, that he, it's pedigree. It's pedigree, it's expectations, it's investments with these picks. And the Steelers haven't taken a first-round quarterback since Ben. So that's why he's, Kenny's treated differently.
Absolutely.
For people like me anyway, but the people that are impatient with him, I'm with you there, because the improvement is evident, it's obvious, it's in the stats, it's in the game film. I like what I'm seeing from Kenny Pickett every Sunday. I had an epiphany yesterday. An epiphany when you just have this moment of realization.
Oh, I thought that was a stripper's name.
Epiphany and Ebony.
Crystal.
Well, I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there watching the game, and by all accounts, we started well. Kenny started well, and in between drives, there's a couple misfires, a couple misreads. Kenny makes mistakes, and I'm sitting there on my phone, and I'm tweeting about every throw and where it looks good, where it looks bad, and I just realized, man, I'm like, dude, I am happy and content and excited for what I am seeing in Kenny Pickett. I know he's showing the signs of being a good quarterback. I know he is improving. So I'm not going to continue to, like, by my count, he had about 3 bad passes yesterday that I can't explain away or account for. But
Mhm.
guess what? I'm not going to, because it's 3 bad passes. Like, you don't do this for every quarterback in the NFL. I know Kenny's a rookie, and I know he's a polarizing subject, and everybody wants to argue about Kenny every single week. But every quarterback across the NFL, nobody goes 25 of 25 for 360 and 4 touchdowns. Like, Tua, Mike White, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, name it, man. They all miss passes in a game, but because of the arguments and the hot topic that is Kenny Pickett and being a first round rookie quarterback, it's almost like there's this expectation to explain away every misfire he has. And we don't have to do that anymore. At
Yeah.
least I don't feel like I have to do that anymore. Like, yeah, he had some misfires yesterday. He missed Pickens on the first drive. He missed Fryermuth deep. And then he skipped one into Deontay Johnson about halfway through the game for like a 10-yard gain. But the deep shot to Deontay, I firmly believe that was Deontay getting alligator arms, because Kenny actually put it in a really good spot for Deontay to go up and get it in between 2 guys, and he didn't.
Mhm.
He brought his arms back in.
Yeah.
That was arguably the other bad throw of the game, but I am explaining that one away because I think I could see what Kenny was trying to do there and put it in a spot for Deontay. Deontay just got alligator arms and pulled him back in. But I had this moment yesterday watching the game, and it was so peaceful. It was like I just didn't pull out my phone hardly at all for the second half, because the first half went that well, and Kenny showed that good of progression, whether it was converting all the third downs on the opening drive. I think we had 4 converted third downs on the opening drive. Whether it was using his legs to escape pressure, whether it was finishing drives off, the perfect pass to Connor Hayward for the touchdown. The Fryermuth play, yeah, it was an angry run. It was a great yard after catch play from Fryermuth. It was probably his best play of his career, maybe, but that ball was a seed that Kenny fit in between 2 Falcons defenders, um, about what, 13 yards away. So that was another good pass to NFL throw. So once I came to this inner decision watching the game yesterday, even though the second half was very boring and at times it looked like we were going to give it away, I, I I just realized I'm perfectly happy with the way Kenny's season is going so far, and it's a great feeling. I wish more people would join me.
Yeah. And did Ben Roethlisberger ever miss Antonio Brown, who was wide open at times? Geez, I can remember AB in Chicago running over to the Gatorade jugs on the sideline and tossing them. And we've got a lot of like storylines that aren't necessarily completely attached to this game. Obviously, for anyone who's living under a rock, it was a 19-16 win. Steelers still struggled to put up some points in the second half and still struggled on offense to score touchdowns, and they settled for field goals, which allowed the Falcons to still kind of be in this game. But there were a number of adjustments, and there's a number of things that people just aren't accounting for. They're not seeing the big picture. Do people ever crucify players for missing a pass? Sure they do, Zach. Do we remember Mason Rudolph not catching Ray McLeod open in the end zone against the Detroit Lions? Like, that one comes up all the freaking time, and it's like it's just one pass where you got a guy who's not taking all of the starter reps at that point. And it's the same thing for Kenny. This is where the progression and everything's coming. Kenny was third string in training camp, off seasons. He's had to earn this position and move his way up. Now, he got named as the backup, although we had a snafu with that, a clerical error, according to Mike Tomlin, when that first depth chart came out, and they made Kenny the backup instead of Mason Rudolph. But Mason's actually getting more snaps as a lot of times the scout team quarterback, but then you're emulating someone else's offense. This is why it's tough for these backups to play in the NFL. It's not like Mitch Trubisky was giving way to all of these snaps and all of this, playing time and practice. He was preparing as the starter, and that's going to come over time. And we saw the other one that you had me hand pick here, that Kenny had a higher passer rating yesterday than the following quarterbacks: Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, Tua, Derek Carr, and Mac Jones. I don't know that I'm going to put a feather in my cap over Mac Jones, but I mean, it's Mac Jones is Mac Jones, right?
That's the feather in my cap. I could not have been more not into Mac Jones last year, and there were some Steeler fans who were like, "Yeah, dude, but if he falls, he could be our next quarterback." I said, no,
I hated
he
him.
can't be.
Brian calls him Doughboy. Like, I hate's a strong word, but I never felt that he would be the fit for the Steelers going forward. It felt like, I don't know. Anyways, what was the rest on this list? We had Justin Fields. Okay, he doesn't throw a whole lot. Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, who luckily they played the Houston Texans, who apparently like to give up defensive and special team scores to their opponents. And then, of course, the list ends with Kirk Cousins. These are all quarterbacks that Kenny Pickett had a higher passer rating than. And there's people, again, like
Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Tua. Those are good quarterbacks, right?
Derek Carr, serviceable at the very least.
Don't ruin the joke, dude. Those are viewed as good quarterbacks.
They are almost everyone on that list is viewed. I don't know about Mac, and I was joking. And Justin Fields is using his legs more than his arm as of late. But that's exactly the point. Is look what the Steelers are able to do. They weren't able to do this for a variety of reasons. They started the season with Trubisky as the starter, and they had a really tough schedule. Eagles, Bills, like you're not able to play your game and get your rhythm. And now Kenny he's just stacking. He's stacking. He's growing on blocks. I was joking that Mason, I think, had 5 wins to start out or in that 2019 season. So it's like Kenny got one more to catch Mason, but that's the scary thought, because nobody's actually ever pointed that out. But they won't point it out, because then you got to actually admit that Mason wasn't all that bad. But now you're also seeing where Kenny is going to not only catch him, but exceed where Mason was. Of course, 3rd round pick in a very deep quarterback draft class. You could maybe argue that he is marginally better than somebody like Josh Rosen at the very least. And I mention that all the time. But Kenny Pickett's the only guy where people were like, hey, that guy should have been like a 2nd round pick. Well, Derek Carr was a 2nd round pick too. Would you be comfortable? Would you be happy with having Derek Carr? I'm sure you would. Most of us would have been happy with Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or, oh man, the Broncos. They just couldn't score any points yesterday, man. There's people out there who actually believe Tyler Huntley is a good quarterback. And
I like what Tyler Huntley offers in his toolbox.
But not consistently.
Sometimes he doesn't have the key to the toolbox. The toolbox is locked shut sometimes. He looked well at moments last year, but I mean, as far as him being a franchise quarterback, I'd pump the brakes on that. But if I was running a team like, I don't know, the Texans or whatever, and I had a plan to draft a quarterback next year high, maybe I would bring Tyler Huntley in as like a veteran competition for backup or backup for competition. But I don't think he's like a world beater. Like if he's what the Ravens have, I actually wanted to bring this up earlier and forgot to, but if he's what the Ravens have for the rest of the year, the Steelers have a good chance to actually finish 2nd in the AFC North. Or 1st if we sweep the Bengals.
Well, yeah, if we would have swept the Bengals, that would have been nice. That pains me. That pains me. And I'm actually not sure who the tiebreaker
Oh yeah, we already
to.
Lost.
Yeah. Oh, I actually didn't hear that you said sweep instead of swept. I thought you were in the past tense there. Yeah, it's the only division win that the Bengals have, though. The Steelers still have 3 division games on deck, and 2 with the Ravens and 1 with the Browns. And unfortunately, their AFC record isn't too hot. So I think their path would have to be winning the division, which right now looks like the Bengals are getting hot just like they did last year. There was somebody that actually pitched this as well. They said, could the Steelers be getting as hot as they did that one year with Bill Cowher, where they were the 6th seed? And I'm not ready to jump the shark yet on that. but I can't say no to that necessarily either. If they continue to play the games the way that they have, you take a look at time of possession, for example, which, of course, I'm not going to find the time of possession here.
For the Steelers?
Yeah, here it is.
Well, the time of possession thing is it's a fickle beast because I understand both sides of this argument that, would you like them not to have to use all 3 downs on every consecutive drive? Yeah, of course. We want bigger plays. We want to score faster. But the important thing is they're able to convert these 3rd downs, and it doesn't even seem like Kenny eats 3rd downs for breakfast, dude. He doesn't even he doesn't get nervous. He's very calm, cool, and collected. Even if he's just a QB sneaking it, the amount of 3rd downs we've been converting last game and the game before have been one of the best signs, I think, of Kenny's development. It is the high rate at which we're able to convert 3rd downs with him at the helm.
Yeah, running the ball as well. And in fact, maybe you're on the same page with me with this as well. But I do think that the Steelers, they haven't been putting themselves in really bad 3rd down positions. They have been pretty much setting this up to make things easier with Pickett. They've been gaining chunks now in the run game where they weren't before. I don't know where this is coming from. If you would have told me before the bye that they would be chewing up, let me see, because I got both statistics
94
up.
yards in the first half yesterday.
Yeah,
Kenny.
I was looking at the first half. I was actually looking at the first half summary because I was trying to find that time of possession because they had something like 12, 13 minutes. Here it was 1904 to 1056 in the first half. Yeah. 8 minutes, a half a quarter more. 13 first downs. The Falcons had 8, and they ran for 94 in the first half. And what was it? 154 overall in the game. And
the winning formula, literally.
You don't have Najee running for 100, but if you also said Najee wasn't going to be the bell cow, that Benny Snell all of a sudden was going to get 6 carries and a 4.0 average, which still isn't, it's not huge, but that floor is pretty good. Sims with
it's the best he's looked since the last time he got a chance to start a full game. I feel like Benny Snell, he's looked the best he's looked maybe in his entire Steeler career. I've been really shut up, for lack of a better term, about Benny Snell and his abilities as a running back because he's really impressed me these past 2 weeks in a limited role. I think it's a combination of everything, Joe. I think it's not only Najee getting healthier through time and the running backs just gaining cohesion with the offensive line, but it's the offensive line gaining chemistry with itself. I think because a lot of our the same 5 linemen have been starting for us all season long, up until yesterday when Chooks had to miss a couple snaps. And chemistry and trusting your guys with you right next to you, that's such a real thing in football, especially in the trenches on the defensive and offensive line. And now that the offensive line, they're still not a top 10 line, but they're playing still at a rate that is better than what most people expected going into the season, myself included. And not only are they playing just good enough with their skill in their play, but now they're trusting each other and what they know, in the playbook, it's coming to fruition, and running the ball is getting seemingly easier, I think, because of all of those things. And look, as you see the run game improve, amazing. Kenny Pickett's job gets easier. That's a crazy correlation. I wish someone would have brought that up before. Running the ball helps a rookie quarterback.
Oh, no way. Crazy? Never. That's just not the way it works. Let's let him throw 300 times in a game. 28 times. I mean, you take a look at the last few. Okay, is it any coincidence that Kenny Pickett, we had that up before, and of course, Chris's tweet went back to the Eagles game if you're doing 5 games, so that was before the bye. So if you go from the Saints, Bengals, Colts, and Falcons game, 79.7, 85.9, let me see, 87.5 and 90.9, but 30 attempts, 42 against the Bengals, that's a loss. 28 and 28. So what's the correlating factor here? When you're not counting on Kenny to throw it 30 or more than 30 times in a game, you're winning. And when you're and when you're able to effectively run the football, you're winning games. And I got to bring this up. I so badly wanted to call in to Jim Miller and Pat Kerwin on the SiriusXM NFL radio show the other day. I was out driving around. I don't know which day it was, but some clown calls in and had every Yinzer talking point about how Mike Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game in blah, blah, blah years, or has only had one. And what did he do with all this talent? And just to squash that real quick, because in case somebody's going to jump in the comments and say this, he didn't have that talent in the playoffs, okay? You didn't have Le'Veon Bell for several of those times. When you had Le'Veon Bell out there, they get to the AFC Championship game, and then he gets hurt and you lose the AFC Championship game, even though Kobe Hamilton is one of your wide receivers, I believe. And in 2017, I know that's disappointing, but that's the only game they had all of the killer bees, including Martavis Bryant, against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Jim Miller interjected with this guy, and he said, that Jacksonville team should have been in the Super Bowl. That was a hell of a team. Tom Coughlin had that roster rebuilt, et cetera, et cetera. And you look at some of the players right now, we're celebrating Miles Jack, who was on that roster, and people talk about Jalen Ramsey, and they had some straight up Leonard Fournette having a career resurgence with Tampa Bay, and they had some dudes. It was all the Blake Bortles was the problem there. You know what I mean? And losing Ryan Shazier is just a huge oversight that I still think where people are saying, and this guy brought things up. He's like, Mike Tomlin's a defensive-minded coach. Name one guy that's actually been like a really big name, like star player with Mike Tomlin. And with Jim Miller's like, TJ Watt. And I'm sitting over here like Cam Hayward, Micah Fitzpatrick. Like you go back to Lamar Woodley. He was not a coward player. So I digress. It's a little bit of another hill to die on for another day, maybe during the offseason. But people are going to be out of their freaking mind, Zach, as this goes forward and the Steelers inch towards 500 and Mike Tomlin may not have another losing season. And the expectations are higher. The expectations, this guy, they have to be a Super Bowl. And it's like, okay, but can you take a season like this and just pump your brakes, dude? This isn't the Super Bowl yet, but 1, 2, 3 years of progression with Pickett. Look at Burrow, look at Josh Allen, look at the trajectory of the way those teams were and where they are now. I know Mahomes came right out on fire, but that was year 2. He sat his entire first year behind Alex Smith. And by the way, Andy Reid has a string between Philadelphia and Kansas City of like one playoff win in 8 or 9 seasons as well. So go look that one up and tell yourself now, would you have fired Andy Reid if you were a Kansas City Chiefs fan? Right?
Yeah, there was a long period of time there in Kansas City before Mahomes, like where it was same old shit for the Chiefs year in and year out. Excuse me. Coincidentally, we actually had the Chiefs number when Alex Smith was calling the shots. It felt like they were just an easy opponent for, not easy, but not the Steelers, always. Similar to the Jaguars versus us, we had it for the Chiefs until Mahomes came into the scene. And I do remember people being a little sick of Andy Reid's just consistent losing and in the playoffs. I mean, like, because fans do get impatient, but look at what can come. You know, and I'm with you on like that's what I was trying to say during my epiphany rant, that I feel that like as long as we're getting better, specifically Kenny and the other young pieces on the team like Freiermuth, who just had his best game, I think Najee is showing signs. Say that 5 times fast. Najee is showing signs of his rookie self and his Alabama self. Pickens up and down, but you know that's going to come with a rookie wide receiver who has diva tendencies, partially why he fell to the second round, but his flashes are flashes of greatness. Still got Calvin Austin coming along. He's not really relevant to my point right now, but we have the pieces in place, and we have important pieces in place that you're right. The blueprint is there. Copycat league. Like, look at what the Bengals were able to do in a short period of time. And we weren't in as shitty of a state as the Bengals were. We didn't pick Kenny Pickett at 1. We picked him at 20. So, ipso facto, our business model here to get back to the Super Bowl and get back to an elite team, it should be accelerated and quicker than what the Bengals had to deal with, because we are a better team when we drafted our new franchise quarterback than the Bengals were. So these are all good things and reasons to believe that after this season, regardless of how it finishes, I think next year there's plenty of reason to believe that we're going to be right back competing for a playoff spot. Again, as long as these things I just mentioned continue to trend in the right direction.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. I mean, TJ Watt, there you go. And I think
TJ
that
Watt,
was,
Minka's locked up for life, basically.
yeah, and those are some big pieces the Bengals added. Trey Hendrickson, Jesse Bates. Those were, very similar type of pieces that they needed. Then the quarterback, they got the edge rusher. They got the other
Highsmith is coming
playmakers.
along really well now.
Oh man, double digit sacks, and Cam Hayward got his sack. You got to mention Cam Hayward on a whole other level here before I go back to Mike Tomlin and talk about his coaching job. How cool was that for Connor Hayward? We finally got to see him, his number called, and he gets to score a touchdown where their father, ended up playing. That was a very emotional moment. I'm not sure if you saw it, but Cam in the post game was wearing his father's Falcons jersey, or at least a replica of it, the old Craig Ironhead Hayward, who had played many years with Atlanta. And Atlanta also wearing the red helmets. What's with everybody bringing out their throwbacks and their alternates? They get fired up to play the Steelers, don't they? The Colts just did it.
They just cleared the
Yeah.
helmets this year again. They
Yeah.
took that away from us, and they gave them the opportunity to. They gave NFL teams the option to wear a second helmet this year, but they took that away for the past like 10 years. I love it. When I
Yeah.
saw they were wearing the throwbacks, I actually got very nervous.
Oh, I know,
I'm a big
doesn't it?
vibes
That's what I'm
guy.
saying. Everybody gets fired up. The Dolphins did it too.
Yeah.
In Miami, that was like one of their first postseason games in like a decade. They exhumed the remains of the perfect season team, the 72 or whatever Dolphins.
Because the Steelers are
yeah.
the Yankees of football, dude. Everybody gets up to
know.
play the Steelers. We are the greatest franchise. I was so hyped for Connor Hayward and Cam Hayward. That was a really, really cool moment and story that the both of them mentioned how they, Connor and Cam visited their dad's grave the morning of the game, shared a moment there, and were able to both, it was like divine intervention practically, because Cam Hayward got a sack and then Connor scored his first touchdown, which I actually saw on Twitter this morning. It was pretty cool that when their dad, Craig Ironhead Hayward, was at Pitt, his like first career touchdown was a very similar touchdown to Connor Hayward's. He like split the seam up the middle for about 30 yards in between like three guys and caught it like right where Connor Hayward did. Not in the same stadium, but I mean the plays, if you can find him on Twitter, I don't know who posted it, but it was such a cool clip. And the Haywards are so easy to root for because they're just great people. Cam's
Absolutely.
been a great leader and a great Steeler his entire career. He's a large part of my own selfish fandom aside. I really want to win one while Cam is still on the Steelers. He deserves a Super Bowl. Being here, he got to experience guys like Troy Polamalu. Like he was still around some greatness, James Harrison, and then it was on him and Ryan Shazier, who you just mentioned a couple minutes ago, to kind of do everything and steer the ship on defense until reinforcements like Minka and TJ showed up. So Cam's been through it all. I think he deserves the world, and it's really cool to see Connor Hayward growing in this offense. As most people know, Kenny Pickett likes him. They grew together in the camp, training camp, and had a couple good preseason plays together. I actually started Connor Hayward on one of my fantasy teams
No
when he had
way.
not yesterday. No, when he had like
Oh.
the 50-yard catch versus the Buccaneers.
Oh, there
So
you
he
go.
still helped me in that game, but I wasn't starting him yesterday. But it's cool to see because I think Connor Hayward is one of the like sneakiest guys you could pick out as an impact player for us next year. I really see, and I've mentioned this before, I see a lot of young Delaney Walker in his game when Delaney Walker was on the 49ers at the beginning of his career, and he was an understudy, a backup, a tight end to Vernon Davis, which when you look at the Steelers, Connor Hayward's essentially an understudy, a backup, but he shows flashes like this, and you think, man, if we could get this guy on the field more and get him consistent touches, he could really be something special.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I was smiling over that whole play because I'm like, I know Zach's gonna be all over this. Tomorrow Zach's gonna be all over this. This is
Fran,
yes, on point for sure. Well, Muth early too, man. He was tearing it up, I believe.
got my
Farmuth
Moose
finished
shirt on.
3 for 76 on the day. So he led everyone in receiving yards. Deontay 5 for 60. I'm glad you brought up the diva thing with George Pickens. I'm going to do that. I want to close the book on something though with I'm going to start calling him Iron Mike Tomlin because it just makes the most sense to me. This guy gets way too much shit I'm just gonna say it as it
Who,
is,
Tomlin?
deep in it. Absolutely. That
Oh
guy
yeah, no
calling and
kidding.
just saying that he needs to be fired. Pat reminded him on the radio broadcast there, and this was a caller. He reminded him they beat Tom Brady with guys just off the street. Like Quincy Wilson, I don't think had played a snap of a down of football in like 2.5 years.
We just cut
And
him like 2 weeks ago.
yeah, and then now he's no longer on there. Josh Jackson can't even get on the field as an active. I think Terrell Edmonds might have been out for that game as well. So they're playing like Trey Norwood. DeMonte Casey was still on IR. You just had like a band of whatever, and it's like, isn't
Connor
this
Hayward had a big play.
yeah, isn't this Tomlin's specialty with defense or whatever? And it's like you just don't realize like this team hadn't been at full strength for greater portions of the year, and there's a lot of turmoil with the quarterback position. You're spoiled by Ben Roethlisberger and the consistency he provided for all of those years, and even so, there were times where Ben was far from perfect, throwing 5 interceptions against the Jacksonville Jaguars, for example. He threw a lot of picks in a lot of playoff games, but it comes back to Tomlin, and it's not like some shared blame or anything like that. So, not necessarily a question I'm posing, but kind of the statement I'm making here is how pissed off are you going to be when Mike Tomlin ends up? They'll be drafting like 18th or something, 16th, maybe just outside of the postseason, and has a 500 record, and you're not going to be able to say all of these dumb things you've been queuing up, and there's plenty of clickbait around there. Tomlin, somebody asked him for an autograph in the tunnel. I'm sure you saw that video floating around already. The stuff with George Pickens or Deontay and all the diva
Oh, the
stuff.
fan in the tunnel is pissing me off because at first I thought we all were on the same page that it was cool the way Tomlin reacted, that he was so focused on the game. And for people that don't know, prepare to censor me, Joe. There was a fan standing by himself with his phone out, taking a video in the Falcon Stadium, like kind of in the concession area where you can walk around. Like clearly the guy wasn't supposed to be there, or it was just an inappropriate time. And Tomlin walks by with like an escort, and the guy almost sarcastically sticks his thumb out and is like, "Come on, Mike, let's get a win." And Tomlin looks at him and goes, "Man, I'm fucking working," and keeps walking. And everybody I thought was on the same page that was an awesome moment, and that's what you want to see in your head coach. I'm not here for selfies or daps right now. I'm here to finish the game because it was halftime. And this morning I've seen like clockwork, the haters, they'll come out and they're like, "This is such a bad way to treat a fan. You shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't have been standing there. He shouldn't have been like getting in his face with his phone in halftime of a game." So yeah, that whole scenario started to piss me off this morning. I shouldn't get on Twitter first thing in the morning. It's bad for my mental health. But that was one of the first things I saw was people complaining about the way Tomlin treated that fan.
Yeah, shouldn't go on Twitter ever at all. It's probably bad for your health. I stopped doing it during games. The knee-jerk reactions in the middle. There's people still bitching about Matt Canada. I understand Matt Canada is far from perfect, but this team has made some strides already. It's like if they call one jet sweep, they're all like out of their mind, and it's like, okay, like
ironically they worked yesterday too. I counted 2 that were positive yardage. Maybe the last one
I
Gunner
believe
didn't work, but that was more on Gunner than I think that the scheme.
I think Gunner had just a 0 on the one, no gain on the one. Okay, big whoop-de-doo. Like, every single play, it just drives me crazy. Everything can't be perfection. Okay. And now you're going to try and you're trying to also dump on Tomlin. Oh, they should fire Tomlin, or this team can't lose, right? They want a higher draft pick because, TJ Watt was a top 10 pick, right? People just look at the guys they find in the second and third rounds. We're talking about George Pickens. You're talking about Pat Freiermuth. Those are not first-round draft picks, let alone top 10 first-round draft picks. So it does not matter where their position is in the draft because all different teams have all different needs. And
the second round should be called the Steelers round because they always kill the second round.
Yeah, they absolutely do. So the George Pickens thing, it annoys the hell out of me because, well, number one, I had him on my DraftKings team, so that annoyed me. The production wasn't there. The production's not going to be there every single week. And okay, who cares that he's like being passionate on the side of the field? He plays with an intensity. I don't see the same
thoughts exactly, dude. I'm so with you.
Everybody thinks he's going to be AB Jr. AB is a completely different animal. Completely different, and over the years he became more of a self-centered animal.
We knew this about Pickens. It's why he was available in the second round. I've said on this show that there were people that said his off the field was laughably bad. That was the direct quote. laughably bad. It wasn't about, oh, it's because he's smoking pot or because he's getting pulled over for speeding or he's partying. It was because of this. It's because he's got diva tendencies. And, when you're that good, when you've been that good your whole life and people just spoon feed you compliments and they spoon feed you the ball, like you come to expect it. And Pickens knows he's good. He gets emotional when he doesn't get his targets. But two things that happened after his blow up that showed me the Steelers
Yes,
understand,
this
and
is
so
where I'm
does George
headed.
Pickens.
Yeah.
Number one was they designed a play to shut him up. They gave him a quick, easy pass because they do care. They want this kid to be a part of the team. They want him to have his mind right. So I think they tried to show him, look, we can get you involved, but it isn't always going to work to the benefit of what we're trying to do on the particular drive because
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, they got Pickens' pass and then punted shortly after that. So it wasn't really a good play. But late in the game, and this is what had me arguing on Twitter and trying to tell people, whether it was in text or just whatever, when the
Oh,
game was
text
closing
messages are
out.
the worst. If you're getting friends and family on you during the game with stupid, like like sidebar stories like that, they're the absolute worst, dude.
No, I keep good company. So like usually it's all spirited conversation, but some people text me and ask me questions, and I'm like, dude, are we watching the same game? But when the game was closing out and the Steelers were clearly running the ball, running the ball, George Pickens was out there. He was doing his job. He was getting in the way, blocking. But one of the best things I saw was there was probably like 2 minutes left. Najee had just run for a first down. First player to run over, grab his hand, help him up, dap him on the helmet, and say, good job, was George Pickens.
Yeah.
That's maturity. That's growth. People, you want to pick apart everything this kid does and everything he says and every facial expression he makes in body language, but you don't want to do that for the good stuff. You only want to dissect whenever he's acting up, not when he shows signs of being a good teammate and signs of maturing. That's my whole point. Like these people, if you're going to look at it that way, you got to look at the whole picture. If you're going to break down everything he does, then make sure you do that for the good things too.
Yeah, and I know I dumped on Deontay the week before the Monday night game, but that was because he came out of the huddle and did like one of these. This wasn't like on the sideline, like lip reading, get me the ball after the fact or whatever. This was in the course of play, and body language. It just said, I'm not going to be involved in this particular play, or I'm not happy or whatever.
That's unacceptable.
Yeah, I don't care for that. It's a completely different response and outburst.
Can't quit on a play.
Yeah, don't quit on the play. Please don't quit on the play. Don't quit on your team. Whereas George is saying, hey, give me the ball. I can help my team. Now, did they really give him this play to shut him up? Yeah, maybe not. Maybe they went in his direction and realizing also we got to keep this defense honest. But they bracketed the hell out of George Pickens. And I know I haven't spoken to you much recently, but I know we've talked about him being wide receiver one if you're looking at opposing threats when it comes to the Steelers offense. And this came up also with Will McFadden, who was on the show for the pregame from Believe in Falcons podcast. You got to watch Pickens. Pickens is the threat. Whether or not he's labeled as a wide receiver one as a rookie, there's enough there that it's opening up for everybody else too. So while he doesn't get maybe sometimes his targets or something happens, there's a breakdown in the offensive line and a play, he might have been the hot read on it. He might have been the primary or a secondary. He beats his man, he gets open, and it just doesn't work out all the time. You know what I mean? There's seconds for these quarterbacks to see what's out there. You're reading the coverage pre-snap. You're trying to get a good judgment of where you're going to go with the ball, and hopefully you don't have this oh shit moment where you got a corner or whatever, or somebody was flying through the middle of the line completely unblocked and Kenny goes down. But there are very few moments like that. It's going to happen, but he's got to work. Kenny is making these reads. Kenny is making these decisions. He's making them
Oh yeah,
quick.
man. They
He's
were talking about it on
recognizing stuff.
TV. The way Kenny's
Yeah.
able to see the field and read the whole field. It's another one of those intangible, non-statable things that if you know ball, you can see what Kenny's doing out there, and you can tell that he's going through each of his reads. He's making the right throws. Even his misfires, like the miss to Freiermuth early, that could have been a touchdown, and the air quotes miss to Deontay. He's putting the ball in the right spot. He's making the right read. He just missed Freiermuth by like a foot. And Deontay, I already said it, but I feel like that ball was actually in the perfect location. So
Yeah.
he's seeing who's open. He's seeing where to go. Even that one ball that was, I think, on the first or second drive for us, he was going deep, and the ball got hit just late enough that it wasn't a fumble, but it was an incomplete pass, and it just came out as a duck. He was looking deep there. It was either to Deontay or Pickens. And when they showed the replay, from what I could see, both guys were open. So he was making the right read there too. He just had to get it out a little faster. But as mentioned, this line, it's doing better than expected, but there are still times where it feels like Kenny has little to no time, which when he can't escape with his legs, which is another benefit of his game, when he can't do that, it's a sack, you know?
Yeah, and he's been doing better with that. He's making the reads on the run. He's actually taking the ball and taking off with it. There was a second and third down play. It was towards the end of the game where they were trying to close things out. And I was like, oh man, that play was designed to maybe get 2-3 yards, maybe not get the full first down. Like if it does, great. You've dumb lucked your way into the first down, game over. You run the ball, you make the Falcons use their timeouts, et cetera, et cetera. But in this case, it didn't get any gain. And instead of kicking the field goal, Mike Tomlin decides to punt, which I thought was an awesome decision. It's yet another tip of the cap.
Me too. Me too. I wish I would have tweeted about it, but I didn't. But I knew it was a good call.
Falcons offense isn't going to march 90 some yards, but if you miss this field goal and they need a touchdown,
they can march 40.
Or they don't, they could tie the game. Younghoe Koo can kick the ball 50 yards in a dome stadium. So back them the F up. You know what I mean? That's
Matt Wright,
perfect.
To his credit, had a good game, but he's not, I don't feel confident in banging in a 50-yarder.
No, absolutely not. And he had a 48, I think 2 from like 43 or something from the same distance, but man, I wanted to rewind to something else you said, and this closes the book on the Rudolph versus the Pickett type deal. Rudolph didn't instill that same kind of confidence with me. Was he above the line? Could he be a solid backup? Yes. And even statistically, it was more or less to show you, have some friggin' patience with the rookie. You know, he's growing. You hated the other guys so much. And it's also to just show the Yinzers that they're hypocritical, a whole hell of a lot of them. There's a lot of them that still are impatient in treating Kenny the same way that they treated Mason. But Mason doesn't scan the field the same way and is making those quick decisions where the ball is out of his hand, like boom, pronto. You know what I mean? So to close the book
for sure.
on that.
You know, people were freaking out because Tomlin punted yesterday, living in his fears. And then what they don't account for is, and I understand because he's a very up and down guy, but Presley Harvin had the best punt of his career. And then Minka did Minka things, and we won.
Yeah. Well, Minka did Minka things and then said, sorry, not sorry for not getting me a tutty for my DraftKings also. That hurt.
Dude, I texted my dad all excited, and I should have learned from my life with my dad and past experiences. He was like, yeah, I had the over, dude. And I was like, oh, shit.
Oh, would he have made it? Wasn't it 41?
He might have had an alternate one because I know he couldn't have had the Steelers because we were favored by like 1 point. So we still covered that. But so it must have been like the over. But yeah
35.
He was one of the people upset.
Points. It was 35 points and it would have been 42. It would have just made it with the extra point. Oh, I know, man. It was just like right there. And I took Steelers D because they were cheap. I should have actually not that I would have wanted to necessarily, but I should have noticed it was the same thing like you were talking about revenge games. I made a mistake not taking AJ Brown, and I made a mistake maybe not taking the Browns against Kyle Allen or whoever was playing quarterback for the Texans. He was just pure cheeks, man.
Oh no, the Texans should have won that though. That Deshaun Watson didn't do shit, man. They had that game, but they just lost. I mean, I can understand conspiracy theories about teams tanking because Texans should have won yesterday. I was bummed I didn't bet on them until I saw that they weren't able to close it out.
Yeah, same here. So just maybe a few notes. And the Steelers just seem kind of ruthless on 3rd and 4th down. I think they've been moving the chains earlier and like getting some first downs on 1st down, on 2nd down. That's been a big change.
Derek Watt, talk about Derek Watt, dude.
Yeah, Derek Watt. What a monster. What is he, like 5 for 5 now?
5 for 5 on converting third downs.
Yeah, or even 4th downs. I think it's been mostly almost all 4th downs, just letting Kenny lean into it. And again, the perfect pass thing, like we were saying, I don't have a problem with any of those. Like you said, the decisions seem to be going in the right places, seems to be making the right reads, and just sometimes it doesn't work out. I mean, how many times did Sammy Coates drop a ball from Ben Roethlisberger or something like that, where Ben puts it right, maybe only where he can play, and a lot of that comes with just the what do you want to say? Who do you give the benefit of the doubt to? And you would often give Ben the benefit of the doubt. Now, all eyes are on Ben's replacement. Everybody wants that franchise quarterback that's going to lead the Steelers to the promised land. This just needs a little bit of patience. And this is where I saw this season progressing. The hope was at the very beginning, can they find somebody to possibly fill the shoes of Ben Roethlisberger? They don't have to be Ben Roethlisberger. Being Ben There'll never be another Ben. But can there be somebody that could at least be a franchise quarterback, or are they going to go through the hell that the Colts have gone through? They show the graphic every Colts game of all the players since Andrew Luck. The same thing, I bring up the Broncos all the time, and even
Dude, ironically, the Steelers have a chance to be like the Ravens and getting their next franchise quarterback right away. Because, yeah, it's not normal when your franchise quarterback of 15, 20, whatever years leaves, and then you get the next one possibly right away. Like, Ben's locker is still warm, and we got the next quarterback right away. Normally, that's very hard. We've all seen years and years of the Bengals and Browns, et cetera, Titans, like these teams, Dolphins. It's not normal to find your next guy right away. And if we've been able to do that, that is so huge. And that is another reason why people should be patient, because the improvement's there. It's in the stats. It's in the numbers. If Deontay doesn't drop a ball yesterday, if Pickens doesn't drop a couple balls the game before, Kenny's well ahead. I mean, well over 200 yards in both of these past games. Instead, the drops kept him to 190s, 180s. But the stats would look better if everything was going perfectly. But that's not reality. What's important is you yourself need to sit there and watch Kenny play. And it doesn't take much to see that this kid isn't your run-of-the-mill, like, he's not a first-round bust. I have the utmost confidence saying that already.
I'm so sick of hearing about the busts and busted drafts thing. And again, people aren't taking into consideration the players that were taken in second and third rounds as well. I'm sure you saw the same tweet float around from someone. Of course, they're like buzzards flying around on the Pickens news on whether Deontay's being kept happy, whatever the Mike Tomlin thing in the tunnel, and anything that they could latch onto, it seems like just kind of ridiculous. And they had been saying this, Najee a bust, and Najee looked freaking good. He looks like he's back to health and cycling in. Jaylen Warren had one carry. Jaylen Warren's supposed to be the next dude. Put Jaylen Warren in instead. Now, there ain't nobody, not even on this show, that thought Benny Snell would be the change of pace. And you've got many change of paces: Steve Sims, Gunnar Olszewski, Derek Watt. They've got a lot of weapons in the arsenal when it comes to trying to run the football.
My boy Anthony McFarland, he looked great last game when he was given an opportunity. He didn't get a hat last game, or he just didn't play at all. But that's another one. Yeah, we've all of a sudden got this deep running back room.
Yeah, and again, Najee 5.1 yards per carry in this game. And I know people aren't liking it for their fantasy teams or whatever, but maybe being the bell cow isn't what he needs to do, not only just for his health, but for just the way the teams have to defend. And
he's still the starter, you know, and he's still bell cow is an extreme term, but he's still by my account looked like he was getting the lion's share yesterday and took advantage. He almost had 100 yards. So, you know, bell cow, I guess it depends on your definition of a bell cow. You know, I guess obviously not giving anybody any carries at all, that would be a bell cow. But if he's still getting like 15 to Benny Snell's 4 and Derek Watt's 2 and jet sweeps account for 3, like that's a good formula, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Warren's coming in pass pro. And so let me see here. I just had it up. Najee Harris, 66% of the snaps. So he played 43 of the 65 offensive plays for the Steelers against the Falcons. And I mean, he's out there more than even Freiermuth. Freiermuth was out there for 36 plays, 55%. They shake it up a lot. Gentry's out there. Gentry may be the better blocker. Like I've said this before.
Maybe, dude.
Well,
I love Pat, but come on.
Yeah, well, you know what? This is a great thing to bring up. I was thinking this while you were on your epiphany earlier.
Pat's better than he was at Penn State, but blocking isn't his thing.
Blocking is okay, but and when you're asking guys to chip, that doesn't necessarily help either. It also hurts like the pass game too and could be disruptive. Go look at Kurt Warner and some of his videos on the Steelers offense with Kurt Warner. He explains it pretty good. But Zach Gentry was a
Brian Baldinger, you mean?
No. Kurt Warner has a YouTube thing too, but Baldy's breakdowns are awesome. Also, give credit where credit is due. Benny Snell, 9 snaps in this game. He actually was outsnapped by Jaylen Warren, 13-9, but he didn't have as many carries, and that really messes with the defense. You're looking across there, and you're like, okay, Jaylen Warren's in, Benny Snell's in. They're running the ball no matter what. And it really hasn't been that way. So give a little bit of credit to, I don't know where it's coming from. Is it all Matt Canada? Did they take some of his toys away and give him the Mike Sullivan, who used to be an OC as well? Or is there like a team effort, collaborative effort? The other players having some input? Somewhere, somehow, during that bye week, someone drew a line and they said, okay, this ain't working, scrap it. This is working. Let's see what we could do with some of these things. And effectively, they're all the same plays, as we know. But Ben had how many years with Heath Miller to have that rapport, to know where Heath Miller is going to be at any given moment on a third down, in the end zone, near the end zone, to lay the ball in exactly where the side, whatever, Heath Miller, 6'7", 280 pounds, whatever he is, and put it, I don't know if he was 280, 260. But you know what I'm saying? Kenny, how many games has he been starting? He's rookie. He's been with this team just now, in the now. And I brought up Ben's numbers for those first 3 seasons he played before. And now I think even if I go to put up and revise that and put in Kenny's new numbers, they're going to be very indistinguishable between those. And now you're starting to get some wins. Now you're able to lean on the defense, make a damn you for not taking that in as a pick 6. But I'll take it. I understand it. I'll take the W over my fantasy W's any day of the week. It does cost me money, but that's, I still love you. It's just,
it's a great silver lining, dude.
Yeah.
That's my input. Cause I went 1-3 in my fantasy leagues. Won the must win though. That's a good point. I won my must win matchup, but I lost in my other leagues. I didn't win much money gambling. But the Steelers won. Kenny looked good. I'm with you on the Freiermuth thing 100%. I think I already said this, but I think he had his greatest play and maybe his greatest game as a Steeler, just based off of the outside the box look at what Freiermuth was able to do, because he had more than one crucial third down conversion for Kenny yesterday, for the offense, I should say. And he's showing signs of, there was a small part of me when the season began and he was out with concussions and there were some games where he totally disappeared, that I started to lessen my enthusiasm and kind of worry about the
bust.
No.
That's what everyone else was saying. Bust.
But I think Freiermuth has like superstar potential. I really do. And the way the season started, I kind of started to dim like that excitement that I had for him. But it's back now. I'm pretty sure he's tight end 6 in most fantasy leagues right now. So he's borderline top 5 numbers wise.
Yeah, well, and still my point was like the rapport between Ben and like AB, that didn't happen overnight. That took time.
It's getting better by time. Me too. Yeah, it's like Kenny, with each start, it seems like he knows
he's gonna get that
how
time.
to get guys involved better and better, and where their sweet spots are, because a lot of Freiermuth's catches were in the same area of the field. A lot of Deontay's targets seem to be in the same area consistently over time. So he's getting a feel for where guys, like when Uncle Jesse in Full House was playing basketball and he had the one sweet spot on the court. It's like he's figuring out where Freiermuth's sweet spots are, where Deontay's sweet spots are, and Pickens. It's coming with each start and the more reps that he's getting. I'm with you 1,000%. It's just, Ben, you have the years to look at, and Kenny, we're just looking at a game-by-game improvement. But there is improvement.
Yeah, I mean, Kenny's new to the NFL. He's got to get used to pro speed. It's a whole different game than playing in college. It's the reason why guys that are stars in college don't come straight into the NFL and are superstars. And just to close some of the analogy as well, I mean, how much is Travis Kelce out there blocking? So it's like, I don't care if Pat's blocking enough or not. Kyle Pitts, who
I don't care. Yeah, we don't need him to be a good blocker with who we've got. But I'm just saying that's definitely not his strong suit right now.
Yeah, and Matt Spaeth made a huge career. He had 2 stints with the Steelers as being that blocking guy, and I think that's where you could look at Zach Gentry. Hopefully, blocking tight ends still get paid. They still get paid. Yeah. Look at what Nick Boyle or whatever with the Ravens did, and Darren Fells has made quite a bit of money. And these aren't guys.
Faith himself got lured out of here by the Bears.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll put it this way: it's a far cry from like Jesse James, who he was what he was, and they were always looking to replace him. They were always looking for very many years to have that security blanket for the quarterback. So when people are saying like, well, they should have gotten an offensive lineman instead of drafting Pat Freiermuth, and you can take a look at the way this is structured now, it's like, no, you've got that safety blanket now in place. You didn't have to go through, Vance McDonald, who may have been healthy to play here or there, he was okay, but Ladarius Green didn't end up working out. Eric Ebron didn't end up working out. So you got to have your passing tight end. You got to have your blocking tight end. McDonald ended up being more of the latter. Unfortunately, it's not that Zach Gentry can't catch passes, but it goes to show you how they've structured this roster to be able to put Kenny in there. Because if they didn't structure it this way and he had nobody to throw the freaking ball to, and I'm going to say this much too, because this was piggybacking off the tweet. I didn't get the show and I can't remember who it came from. They were talking about how, I think I know who it was from. Actually, I'm going to bring it. I'm actually going to pull it up. It's one of my favorite people from The Fan. And it's not Filippone. It's not Filippone, but we'll see if I could end up finding it here real quick. Because he just, of course, he runs his mouth so much. Oh, geez, something about Josh Johnson. But I'm not going to be able to find it. I think it was from Josh Roundtree. But I don't want to dump on him if it wasn't him. Unfortunately, it could have been somebody else. Or he might have retweeted it. But anyways, the gist of this was something to the effect, it could have been Pony too, who knows. It's definitely something he would say. But Deontay Johnson getting paid all this money and doesn't have a receiving touchdown. Chase Claypool's no longer even on the roster. And George Pickens, one catch or whatever yesterday. Don't call the Steelers a wide receiver factory. It's like, oh yeah, say this just for the sake of this one game. You're looking at this. Oh yeah, it was Roundtree. I found it. Let's pull it up and put it on the
I've
big
never
screen
heard
here.
a more nearsighted take. It's literally a countrywide joke that the Steelers have an uncanny, freakish ability to draft and produce receivers.
Yeah.
This guy's looking at the past 3-4 games under a microscope.
Not even.
The rookie quarterback.
Just yesterday, Deontay Johnson was a 3rd-round pick. He has 0 touchdowns this year. Pickens was a 2nd-round pick, 2 targets today. Targets, because targets are huge. Chase Claypool, 2nd-round pick. He plays for Chicago. Let's pump the brakes on their ability to hit home runs on mid-round wide receiver
picks. We got a 2nd-round pick for Claypool back.
And I keep thinking about this constantly now that he's gone and the offense has been better. How much was he a problem?
Yeah.
Was he a problem in this offense? Not catching I'd have to go through some game film. Is he getting open? We know that probably 2 of the interceptions on Kenny's stat sheet are attributed to Chase Claypool.
No, I know what you mean, dude. My buddy made a joke I think it was Eric. He made a joke on Twitter being like, the Steelers got rid of Claypool to make room for Connor Hayward. And I was like, it sounds funny, but Connor's producing.
Oh, and make room for Pat too, and have Zach out there more and play more 2 tight end sets, which also precludes getting Derek Watt and Connor Hayward out there. And all these people that were talking all this time about all the money that you paid for Derek Watt, it's like Derek Watt, they found a niche for this guy. He might still, what did he end up playing? Probably next to nothing, 7 snaps. So the same as Trent Scott, who came in for Chooks
We'll check the temperature on this guy's take next year when Calvin Austin's back. The guy who was killing it in camp with Kenny before he got hurt.
Oh, man.
I'm still
Anthony
very excited
Miller
about
too,
Calvin
man.
Austin.
Anthony Miller, but Miles Boykin pleasantly surprised me, and I think it's good. I never like to see anybody get injured, but Anthony Miller being out of the way, Miles Boykin, he's the one who downed that punt on the 1-yard line. He was down there. He's quicker than a hiccup. I'm very happy with him. He's got size. He doesn't do a whole lot in the actual pass game. More or less, when you see that he's out there, they're probably going to run the football, but still the same. And also, how about this? This is a kind of cool note too. Cam Sutton, offensive snap yesterday. Victory formation. How about that?
Was he the tailback?
Yeah, how about that? Usually it's Minka.
Polamalu used to do it.
But I think Minka, give this guy a blow, because he just caught that and he was running and comes out. So it was like, how cool is that? It usually a lot of times, Troy Polamalu
It's
over
a
the
trusted,
years,
smart player.
trusted or veteran captain type guy if it's a defensive player that ends up out there. So Cam Sutton getting some kudos. I really liked that. I think we're up against it, man. We've been chit-chatting for a while. There's so many things that there is to cover, because too many people had their eyes on the already looking into the off season, looking too far ahead. And now you're going to look ahead to the Baltimore Ravens, who looked like a big, scary opponent. And now maybe without their biggest threat, who talk about one of the clickbait type items that's come out of Baltimore. Lamar Jackson is quiet quitting. If you hadn't heard that term, it's just doing the bare minimum in order to get by at your job, because he doesn't have that contract yet. And he wants that truck backed up, just like Deshaun Watson got, everything guaranteed. And it's a very hot topic to where they're not discussing anymore. And Lamar doesn't have an agent. So he's doing all of this. Yeah, he's doing all of this on his own. There's a lot of things that are going on right now. So if he's hurt, is he in a rush to come back? Is he going to help his team? I don't. I'm
going to catch heat from this if people are still listening to Two Percenters, but I feel bad for Lamar. I hope he didn't hurt his knee too bad. I am a fan. I think he's a good player. I take him as quarterback of my team. But if he hurt his knee in his negotiating year, that really sucks. Like I feel for him bad. I'm sure he'll bounce back, but I've said this before, it's a win-win. If the Ravens pay him, they're screwed with their salary cap. And if they don't pay him, that means no more Lamar Jackson. Even though we play him well, the Steelers always play him well, he's still a good quarterback. I'd rather the Ravens have a bad one.
Yeah, I talked about it on the pregame too. You know who else plays well against them, has played well against them? Brian Flores, as far as the coaching. And we saw that against Mariota. This was a run-oriented primer for Sunday. Big game. I don't know if the Steelers will bust out Color Rush again. It'd be interesting to see if we get yet another alternate throwback type jersey.
Block numbers.
Block numbers, I think, are coming for the Christmas Eve game against the Raiders and the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. So they have a Franco commemorative patch. They have them up for sale on Steelers.com. So check those out. I don't think that this one is usually I'm a sucker for the commemorative stuff. This one just isn't doing it for me. And then I'm kind of like, are they going to wear the block numbers again? Because they didn't wear them last year. They might not have worn them for like 2 years, to be honest. I remember when I first got it, I bought an AB one, and then he decided to work his way out of town. And it's just like, well, do I invest in another? And of course, I got one of the, the Chinese ones. I got a Juju, and now he's not around. And it's like, I'm like, what do I do?
That Chinese site messes up the block number ones, I think. Because I have a couple from them too. That one's too hard for them to nail. They do a good job otherwise, but the Steelers block numbers are uniquely. They're thick, but they're skinnier than like the Giants block numbers, like they're weird. Like a thick block or they're a skinny block number. And that Chinese website doesn't know how to do it because I have a Minka and a Deontay, I think, and I don't wear them because it's noticeable that like they're not right.
You know what? We could probably do a whole show just on that, to be honest. I got enough of them in the closet. I'd be like, hey, look, this is one way. And you never know what you're getting because they show you the stock images that are the real ones. Not the fakes or whatever. So, but it was just like one of these things. I'm not investing $150 in a jersey they're going to wear one time. But for those of you who like to do that kind of thing, go check it out and get yourself some new swag for Christmas Eve. That'll be the 1%ers that are left now listening. So we'll put a bow on the show. As always, thank you for supporting Steel City Underground, no matter where you're watching or listening from. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Got another big game coming. I will mention the Zero Blitz stuff with Brian Flores. I mean, that was highly successful with the Dolphins. We're seeing some of that sprinkled in now over the last couple of games to try and stop or limit guys like Jonathan Taylor, to limit the plethora of guys the Falcons have. That's their primary. That was the other thing too, Zach. It was like, punt the ball, make Mariota beat you with his arm because he can't. It just wasn't going to happen. You saw that at the end of the half that they started running the ball and they were more effective, and that's their game. They got back to it in that third quarter. And
I had the thought they might run the ball every play. The Falcons, because of how good they were doing it in the third quarter.
And you never know who it's coming from, Patterson or Algier or even Mariota. But the Steelers, they're ready. They're primed. They're ready. They just saw this, and then they're going to see this again with the Ravens, and perhaps not as good of a quarterback under center or shotgun.
The old dress rehearsal.
Shotgun. Yeah. They got the old dress rehearsal, and they get to play at home after 2 strong road wins. So we'll wrap it up from here. Till next time, my name's Joe. His name's Zach or Flash or Zachadonia, as Brian would call you. Brian's back, by the way, if you didn't notice. So get to tease him a little more. Yeah, Joy. We'll have to get us all on one here at some point, but we will. Until next time, as we always do on this show, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.